Fantastic. And they're live. They're live. Good morning, Debbie Dudar. Happy Friday.
Yay! Good morning, Bertie. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Do you know some people don't like saying happy Friday because apparently it like devalues the rest of the week, but I just say happy every day. It doesn't matter whether it's Monday, Sunday, whatever. It's like happy whatever. People get a bit pissy about things, don't they?
Happy Friday devalues the rest of the week.
Oh, sorry, like because it's almost not devalues the rest. Yeah, I think devalues the rest of the week. But when you're saying happy Friday, it's like I've been looking forward to Friday and the rest of the week's been shit. Essentially, it's like just enjoy every day.
Every day is a happy day.
It is. So it just happens to be Friday, and it's a happy day because I'm here talking with the lovely Debbie Dudar.
Come on,
all in yellow. So, Debbie, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about measuring what we can measure in business, and that the more we measure things, the more successful we can become, because the more we understand our business. And we're going to be talking about what to measure and how to measure. And what are we not just talking about, Bertie?
We're not just talking about revenue. So we've put in there, measuring is the key to success. And if you want to get any improvement in anything, you've got to measure it. You've got to track some metrics. And I know it sounds a little bit boring and sometimes a bit scientific, but unfortunately, it's the only way to do it. And the analogy I always give is like, if you were going to go on a diet, you wouldn't just start dieting and then just like, oh, I look a bit better in a few weeks. You would track your weight or you would track your waist size. Like there would be some sort of metric that you would measure, wouldn't there, for that?
Yeah.
Or maybe both those things. Or if you're working out, you might be like measuring your arms or whatever. There's all sorts of different things. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. I won't do it. Toby, I was showing off last time. So you would start measuring. You would measure stuff, and it's the same with business. But where people go a little bit wrong with this is they do measure, but they'll just look at revenue. But the thing with revenue is this is just a result. The revenue is literally the result of all the other things that you're doing within your business. Like, of course, we all want to make money, and it's an important metric to be on top of. And I'm not saying don't track your money at all, but the revenue isn't the driver for your business. It's the stuff that you do. So it might be, for example, these things that we do on a Friday, the amount of people that then speak to us as a result, and then the client. Those are really important things to measure because it actually makes it helps us work out, is this stuff worth doing or is it not? What should I be spending my time on, etc. So that's what we're going into. Very long introduction. So,
but I think it's like, and Andrea's just said good morning. So good morning, Andrea.
Morning, Andrea.
I think also it's like if you're just measuring the end point, you don't know what you can improve upon. So you're just measuring that the final countdown, really, aren't you? And you're like, but actually, what are the things I can improve upon to get along the way? And it's taking a few steps back. And you said a minute ago, like, oh, maybe measuring is it could be a bit dry or a bit boring. I want to like flip that on its head and reframe it. It's really exciting because you're like, look what's happened here, or look how many client calls I've done, or look what this is. And if you're looking at the figures and they're not exciting you, then you need to be doing a bit more work.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at the figures and they are exciting you, then that's great. And then think about what you could tweak to make those figures better. So I love looking at the numbers because that tells me how healthy my business is.
Exactly. Yes, that's right. And it's all of those things put together. So going back to the diet analogy, because dieting. I'm always constantly on a diet. I've
never been on a diet. We're the complete opposite.
Right. Always dieting. It's like I can just look at something and put on a stone, but I can lose it again in a week. But anyway, not diet. But your weight or your gene signs is a result of the other stuff that's happening. So me just getting on the scales every day. So compare like your weight to your revenue. Me getting on the scales every day is not going to change my weight. It's the amount of fucking food that I put in my mouth. It's when someone buys hobnobs that I can't walk by the cupboards. It's the amount of hobnobs that I'm eating. These are the metrics I need, like number of hobnobs. I've just had a packet. And then my weight goes up. The weight is a result of the amount of hobnobs that I'm eating. But you would be tracking things like maybe the calories you're consuming, the amount of fat that you're consuming, or things such as the amount of steps or exercise, because they are the drivers. Those are the metrics that are actually driving that final number. And that's what I'm trying to say here. So the revenue is literally the result, but you figure out which metrics are driving those. Do you track any metrics? Oh, what were you going to say, Dudar?
I wanted to get onto the pirate metrics because I love the pirate metrics that you flashed up a minute ago. But yeah, I measure all sorts of things. You know, on social media, one of the biggest things that people do is they'll measure like how many likes their posts get, which is great. But in the social media world, they're called vanity metrics, and they don't really pay your bills. Like, it might be nice to have 100 likes on your post. That's great. But what you really want to do is drill down into it a little bit further and go, well, how many people went and checked out my profile? Or how many people clicked through to my website? How many people took an action? You have like that first stage of action, which is liking. Then maybe you've got some comments. So you've got some engagements. You're having a conversation with people. Maybe then people click through to your website. So you're trying to move people along that kind of funnel in a way. So I like measuring all the bits. I have a Trello board. So every time I have somebody contact me for a discovery call, that goes on that board. And then if they come through to be a client, then I'm measuring that. So I can measure my conversion rate for those discovery calls. And I know how many people on my website go through to the page to book the call. So I'm like, this many people went through to the page to book the call. This many people actually filled the form in. This many people spoke to me, and this many people converted. And so I'm looking at what that conversion rate is. And I'm like, how can I tweak it and improve it?
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And that understanding your numbers helps you then pull some levers to get those drivers to move the ultimate number, what you're trying to move. So let's put those metrics on the screen. Right. Debbie, you have to clap to get them on. Ta-da! There we go. Just have to get rid of a little banner there. There we go. So these are, as Debbie said, these are known as pirate metrics. Why are they called pirate metrics?
Because you go, "Arr!"
Because they are. There we go. That's why they're called pirate. But yes, AARRR. So that's why they're called pirate metrics. Very, very bad joke, not mine. Anyway, so what we have here is different ways in which you can track different areas of your business. And if you're not familiar with these, I will give you a very quick overview. Acquisition. This is the number of things that you would do to bring people to your business. So it might be social media interaction, anything, that first interaction that's bringing people to your business. So the number of people you're acquiring. That's not necessarily turning into customers, just getting that initial attention. Activation. This is their first meaningful interaction with you. It could be when they purchase, but equally it could be something small like when they join your email list. It's a step that they take once they've activated that you know generally you can turn them into a customer. Retention speaks for itself. That's how many of those customers are coming back. Referrals, how many others are they telling? And revenue is a result of all of those things 99% of the time. The reason I say 99% of the time is because you can do things to drive revenue without doing those other things. They are things like increasing your prices, right? So you could just increase your prices, directly going to affect revenue, and you don't have to worry about the others. So they are the pirate metrics. The reason that these things are so important is because once you start understanding what you are tracking, and you raised a really good point about vanity metrics, right? Let's just say if you're posting on social media and maybe, I don't know, maybe you make bread, but you're constantly posting pictures of your arse. You might have... But people do it, right? There's bread there, but someone's bent over like, oh, look at the bread. It's like, I'm not looking at the bread. I'm looking at your ass. I wasn't looking. Not anyway. But where am I going with this? But the point is, so you might be getting 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 likes on this post, right? And thinking that you're driving people to acquisition, but actually, are they moving through that funnel? Are they going and buying from you? And if you start tracking that and then tracking your conversion rate and tracking all of the other things at the same time, you will very quickly see which one of those metrics is actually affecting your revenue and pushing your business forward and which ones aren't. And what we're not saying here is that likes on social media are not vanity metrics by default, but if they are not driving the rest of the metrics, then they are, and generally they are. So it's normally a good place to start. So anything can be a vanity metric. If you're going to networking meetings and not talking to anybody and just going there and talking to the same group of people, and then, oh, I'm so busy, I go to networking meetings every day. If those things do not affect the other metrics, if you're then not activating or retaining those customers, that's a vanity metric. Stop doing it, or Stop pretending that you're busy going to networking meetings and just go for fun. It's not a business metric that you need to be tracking. And that's the whole point. Start tracking and measuring these things, and you can see exactly what works in your business, exactly what doesn't. And then you can start saying, well, I need more to be focusing more on acquisition. And then you just double down and just do things solely for acquisition. You just ignore the rest of them, focus on acquisition, and know that that is going to ultimately affect your revenue. There we go. I'll take this off the screen now. Can't see. Can't even point to it. Oh, there we go. It's
there you go. No, that way. Retention, activation, acquisition. It's like one of those funny Instagram story things, isn't it? Where people flick it out.
That's it. We'll just push it out of the way.
Push it out of the way. And I think like one thing to say is this doesn't have to be super complicated. It could be just, for example, I have a whiteboard, and on my whiteboard, I would write down those final things. So money in, money out, profit. I also have another whiteboard where I'm writing down people that I'm talking to that I might convert into customers or into projects. So I've got keeping an eye on that. And when I've converted them into customers, they go off. I use Trello to keep an eye on some of these metrics. Google Analytics is a free tool for your website. You can set up goals in the settings in Google Analytics, so you can understand when people come to my website, how many of them end up on my Buy It Now page, for example. And each social media platform has its own analytics built in. And you can go to the social media platform and look at those analytics. You can pull them out and put them in an Excel spreadsheet if you want to get, really excited about it. But it could just be a case of looking at it. I think enough people don't even look at it. So, for example, underneath every single Instagram post, if you've got a business account, there's a blue View Insights. That will tell you how many people found you, if they found you from your hashtags, if they've clicked through to your website, if they've saved your post. So you can just starting to pay attention and notice and go in and have a look. It's just an easy first stage to start paying attention to these numbers.
Yes, that's it. And all that data is there. And you've raised some really good points, so I'm just going to dig into a little bit more now. So where you were saying keep it simple, absolutely. It's very easy at the beginning when you see all of this data and think, right, I'm going to build a Google Sheet. And that's a great place to start, like literally a Google Sheet, number of networking meetings I've attended, how many times have I shown up live, whatever you think those key metrics are, and manually put them in. Don't automate this process yet. I love automation. This is not the time to do it.
Yeah, because you need to know it, don't you?
Exactly. But all of this data is captured, but just put the minimum in there to start with and just get in the habit of tracking it. It's like if you were, an actual bodybuilder, you'd be tracking really key micronutrients and things like that. Yeah. So, but you don't have to do that if you're just trying to lose a few pounds for holiday or if you've not got any specific goals. So just track the things that you need. Don't overcomplicate it because that data's there. And if you need to go back and grab it, then you can. And then once you've got that simple data in, then you can always automate that process a little bit later, but understand it first. But as soon as you start putting that data in front of you and looking at it, you'd be like, so actually all of those networking meetings that I've been going to, I know, like every time I go to a networking meeting, it doesn't make any difference. Or in fact, people go away because I turn up and then they think I'm a dick and never work with me. Like, it could be the data will show you, but it just keep it really, really simple.
Or it could be like, when I do a live, people click on my website, but when I just do a post of my face, nothing much happens. That might not be what it is. But what you're trying to look for, really with the figures, is relationships between them. When I do X, that results in people going to my website. When I do that doesn't result in very much. And then what you can do is you can start siphoning off the things that aren't working, like in your networking example, and then doing more of the things that are working. But if you don't know the numbers, you're not going to know what's working and what's not working.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of point of it, isn't it? Is to look at it and go, oh my God, if I do a Facebook Live, I get loads of engagement and hits to my website. So why don't I do one of those every week, where if I just post a quote from a famous person, nothing much happens. That's a bit of a pain in the ass finding all these quotes. I'm going to ditch that strategy. And it helps you fine tune your strategy so you end up just doing the things that have the biggest impact.
Of course.
None of us have infinite amounts of time. So the numbers will tell you what's working.
Yeah. And the way to look at it like this, like if whatever you are doing, you are putting, I'm confident whoever's watching, listening, wherever you are, the stuff that you are doing, you are putting effort in. Like you're not just, pissing about on here. Like, you're showing up. We're creating these lives, for instance, for you guys to watch now. You'll be creating social media content or you're doing whatever. All of that stuff takes a lot of time. To go in there and get the metrics afterwards, it's different because you're not doing it, but it takes minutes. Yeah. It takes minutes. And just going in there, taking that data, stick it on a Google sheet, thank me later. It will make such a difference. If you are putting the effort in to put in that work, then fucking track to see if it's working or not. Because then you don't want to be doing stuff that's not working. It's a waste of your time. And you could be spending that time doing something better instead. Was that why don't you? I don't know.
Yeah. Perfect sense.
But we've got a question. So Andrea has asked, what methods do you use to track referrals? Don't know what you do, Andrea. Maybe you put it in the comments if we've got time. It's very subjective. For me, if somebody comes to be a new client, I will just ask them and say, how actually did you hear about me? If that is then one of my clients or someone that I've worked with or some that has referred them, I'll just mark that down as a referral. So it's, generally asking people, but it could be that you ask a question on your website if you're selling like you're selling products or services. There's different ways, but just asking and finding out is the best. Is the best way. But it all depends on what you do as well.
So I know what Andrea does. She makes beautiful ceramics that are personalized that you can gift to your family. She home delivers some of them, and she also runs group sessions where you can go and learn how to make pots and paint them and do that with your family. So it's kind of an events-based business and a e-commerce business really around ceramics and personalized ceramics and lovely gifts that you can give to people that you love. So definitely for you, Andrea, Bertie's example of, well, if somebody's bought something or somebody's turned up to your workshop, where did you come from? How did you hear about me? What did you do? Did somebody tell you? They might say, I watched one of your lives. They might say that I saw you on Facebook. They might say that a friend told me. And you can just start tracking that and then thinking, well, how can I do more of that? And if you've got your website, then you can look at your Google Analytics. And within Google Analytics, there's a section called acquisition. And that will literally tell you, where do people come from before they come to my website? Are they coming by finding me on Google? Are they coming because of email marketing? Are they coming because of social media? Are they coming because they find me on other people's websites and then link through? And just having a look through that stuff is so illuminating. I love the figures. For a kind of slightly creative mad lady, I quite like drilling down into the numbers. It kind of like, I'm like, oh, good. How can I improve this? So just think about the process that people, how do they find you? And just take those steps back and think, well, how could I do more of that if that's what's converting to those final figure of those sales?
Yeah. And in your example, Andrea, if you're still watching, I would make that completely conversational. I wouldn't think about building a survey on your website or anything. I would just start asking people, not as in, can I just ask you this? Just bring it into conversation. And just, but how did you hear about me, by the way? Oh, brilliant. Okay, they told you. Fantastic. There you go. Job done. Mental note. And then you can record it later. Simple. So hope that has been useful. Anything else you want to add, Dudar?
Well, what are we talking about next week? Because this is leading into something else. And it's 3 letters that I always get muddled up. So I will allow you to introduce what we're going to talk about next week.
Next week, we're going to go super technical and introduce a format of tracking goals, etc., called OKRs, objectives and key results. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. So that's our plan so far. So join us next week for more about tracking data, etc., etc. And we will see you next Friday, 10 a.m. for Business Funsize Live. Debbie, it's been amazing. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bertie. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Bye-bye.